You're listening to Edge Radio TV. The views and opinions expressed in this program are that of the hosts or guests, and not the Edge Radio Network or its advertisers or affiliates.
Welcome again, everyone, to another edition of Athletes United on the Edge Radio platform, where truth still matters. I'm your host, Big Mel, of course, also known as his judgeship, master of all that he surveys and final arbiter of all that comes before him. We have an interesting program today. Here we have a young man who's involved in as a county executive in the mass media and communications. His name is Mr. Mel Harrison. And we're kind of interested in what he does and how he does it. So welcome to the platform this morning, Mr. Mel Harrison. How you doing, Mel?
Good morning, Mel. Glad to be here. How are you today?
I'm fantastic. And yourself?
Oh man, all is well. No complaints here. Just trying to enjoy this Friday, man. Glad to be on with you.
We have some better weather than the last time we spoke. God bless you. Yes. Listen. We describe you as being involved in media and communications in the media world, mass media. What exactly is that? How did you get involved? And give us some sense of how you go about it.
Well, I'll tell you, Mel, sometimes life takes us on certain journeys, I started out kind of focusing on the field of like computer science and always kind of intrigued with that when I was going to school, but life took some turns there along the way, and I found myself kind of at a crossroads. I always knew one thing I wanted to do was help people in any capacity in which I could. So I had a history in working in the mental health field a little bit, and really took that opportunity from there, and the connections in which I made with people in that field, and just kind of expanded into an area of communications and with a focus on sales. So I think it wasn't where I initially thought I would, the direction I thought I would initially go in, but I do think over time, life experiences took me a certain way, and now I do take joy in an opportunity to meet new people, connect with new people, and also help them reach their goals, whatever that may be, sure, in whichever field in which they look to practice.
Well, I guess it doesn't hurt to have a certain skill set in the mental health space, huh? To deal with folks in the mass media.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I think so many people kind of take for granted at times, like the value of being in a good space, and mentally. And what I was able to do in my previous field was really kind of not only have a newfound respect for people that are advocates for folks in mental health space, but also have a better understanding of like how people get in those, how does I guess kind of destigmatize the that space. So I think it all kind of works together when you're meeting different people and you're finding new information and being able to communicate that with others and make them informed of such topics as mental health. I think it's very valuable.
So how would you advise someone that's hopeful, who has some aspirations to be involved in media sales and communication, broadcast kinds of medium. How would you advise them to get into the sales and commerce part of it?
Well, I think you have to have like a genuine ability to first communicate. And I think we all have that. We all have giftings in communication. We just have to kind of tap into that. We all have the ability to persuade people when we want certain things. You have to constantly tap into that. You have to kind of be persistent with that. I would say in this space, you get a lot of opportunities to hear the word no, and you can't be discouraged by that. So you have to be persistent and be diligent, and then also really hone in on those communication skills, which you do have, and the ability to persuade people. Because we're all sales.
How receptive is this area of expertise for women and minorities? Are there better chances now to excel in this business? I mean, let's face it, it was a fairly one-dimensional kind of fashion for several years.
Gotcha. No, this is it. You're correct. It's great you point that out. But yeah, I absolutely do think that today, especially with the way that social media is thriving, the way that people have in general kind of I guess broken away from some of the norms of what previous generations kind of looked at the ideal or the avatar for a salesman or a person in this industry. So I think there's been a lot of progress there. And I think ultimately we're in a much better place when it comes to minorities in this field today, as opposed to where it was many years ago.
Well, give us some sense of how you prospect. What is the typical profile of someone you think would make a good guest or a good subject matter to be presented in communication and mass media?
Absolutely. Typical, you have to know who is the audience in which you're looking to target. So if you have any product, any service in which you provide, it's essential to understanding your market, understanding the competitors in your market, as well as just knowing who will benefit from your product or your service. So it won't serve you well if you're looking to, sell water to a well. Well, it will serve you well to serve, like you need to just understand your field and your area, and then do a lot of the due diligence as far as like researching who you're reaching out to, and if they if it will serve them well to have your service, and kind of go from there as far as just being persistent, but definitely understanding your service.
Well, there has to be some objections, some pitfalls to being in any industry. What would you cite as some of the more obvious ones or less obvious ones that someone needs to be aware of doing this business?
Well, one big pitfall that was kind of unexpected, I'd say, was COVID-19. It kind of shook the market with a lot of uncertainty. So I think myself, as well as many other businesses, kind of suffered from that. But ultimately, from what I'm understanding, there's always going to be ebbs and flows. You just have to be knowledgeable of that. Also, kind of have the foresight to kind of gauge which direction you should move in ahead of any potential bumps. But at the end of the day, just kind of have to be persistent, man.
Sure. Well, we're going to talk about Houston and its relative fertility for this kind of business in a moment when we come right back, Mel, all right? Okay, we're coming right on back.
Edge Radio TV is holding auditions for new show hosts. Are you a subject matter expert, professional, influencer, book author, thought leader, or business owner with an educational or motivational platform? Then we want to meet you. Send a link of some of your work to edgeradio20@gmail.com and be sure to put audition in the subject line. Join the Edge Radio TV family. Edge TV, because truth still matters.
Aren't you tired of not getting what you want in bed?
Are you ready to spice things up behind those closed doors?
Woo! We're here for you every hump day at 7 p.m.
This is Sex on the Edge with Jen and Hen. I'm Jennifer Reeves.
And I'm Hendrik Scott, and we are professional licensed sex therapists.
So remember to watch us Wednesday at 7 p.m. on Edge Radio TV, just in time for sexy time.
And we're back on the Athlete United platform. We're talking with Mr. Mel Harrison, our media sales guru, if you will. And Mel, you've operated in the Houston market for some time. Is this a relatively fertile market for media, communications, the kinds of sales and connections that you tend to create? I mean, you have your own magic. Let us know something. How would you compare it to other markets, Atlanta, D.C., New York, etc.?
It's a good question, Mel. I would definitely say that Houston is a thriving market. A lot of talent here, a lot of opportunity. I would say probably more so in the last 5 to 10 years or so than ever. I was just chatting at the station maybe a week or two ago with one of the contestants on one of the hit shows on NBC, the Ninja Warrior, and you'd be surprised how many people are connected in the industry of media in this city. I was shocked at one point, but so yeah, it does create an excellent opportunity for media sales and just making those connections with those people, and definitely just kind of placing yourself in the right circles, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Are you entertaining any ambitions, as we look down the road, of playing in New York media, Fifth Avenue, somewhere in the Hollywood empire of Los Angeles, what have you? Do you have any ambitions like that?
You always want to be ambitious and kind of always set goals for yourself. So Houston is an excellent market. And yeah, I would definitely not rule that out sometime down the line, moving on to maybe a different market or an even larger market. So you never want to rule that out. You never want to rule out growth. So, but at this moment, I think Houston has a lot to offer, and I do want to continue to grow in this market and definitely excel.
Okay. Well, you measure your reputation, I suppose, on sales effectiveness. I mean, real, live, measurable data that says you got it done, you made the sales, you generated X kinds of activity or revenue or something of that matter. That's how you build your resume. Is Houston a place that is given for that, built for that?
Hey, wherever the money is, that's where you have to follow. Houston is definitely a affluent city, amongst maybe one of the biggest in the nations. I think a lot of people maybe not be attuned to that, but definitely a lot of opportunity here. So from that perspective, absolutely, Mel. The more goals you set, you have to reach that tangibly, and you do that by getting revenue. And Houston certainly does have a lot of revenue to offer.
So if Athletes United wanted to increase its revenue base and change its trajectory, we should start talking to Mr. Mel Harrison, huh? Is that what you're telling me?
That's what we're talking. That's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking.
We want to grow, brother. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And just chatting with you, a person of your background and your resume, you definitely have made a lot of connections, not only in the Houston market, Houston area, but even abroad. And those connections, when put all in the right place, it definitely could get the revenue stream rolling.
I like the sound of that. I love the sound of that, in fact. What would you suggest is step one for establishing a marketable and memorable kind of program that attracts?
Well, step one is having people like yourself and in the position that you're in to once you have eyes on the screen and on the content, you want those conversations, those opportunities to be before people to kind of translate and move people in a certain way. You also want to bring more eyes to the audience by connecting with individuals that possibly have a larger following on social media or what have you, or maybe there are people who are well connected and in tune, movers and shakers in the city or any market. So once you start to engage with those people, with their audiences and their platforms, bringing them to a centralized location, and you also have great content creators, I think it's a recipe to move the needle and bring more revenue to any platform.
Given what you do, who are some of your inspirations? Where'd you get an idea like this from? You could actually sell media. You could create, hyperlink connections and pull, the subject content out thin air. Where'd you get that idea?
Well, I would say they're not well-known folks, but I always kind of marvel at a former employer by the name of Frank Vasquez. He's over this company called McKelvey Media in the area, and in working with him, one thing I noticed was how deliberate he was in his pitch once he was in front of potential clients. So that is something I kind of held on to, is you're confident in your product and your service and how you can help a potential client reach their goals. And once you're doing that, you become deliberate in pushing the messaging in which you and how you believe your product or service could serve a benefit to them. Now, of course, you don't get to that position without asking the right questions. I'm always into the idea of being a consultant in a sense, and the way you do that is you ask the right questions and you listen. And once you're able to kind of zone in on where the target market is for a potential client, then be deliberate in pushing that message and making the connections for them and in your product or platform.
So as a media advisor, you sort of advising counsel your clients based on what?
Based on trends, based on the market. I mentioned earlier, you have to understand not only the client or the prospect or the potential client in which you're before, but you also have to understand their market, their competitors, how the trends have gone over a number of years. And once you collect all that data, that information, that all works into your sales pitch, for lack of a better term. But so it definitely does come with a great deal of research and knowledge on any vertical. And once you do so, you use that knowledge to then be a consultant and then make those connections to push our to grow revenue for a potential client.
Sure. Inside of your industry, there must be some experiential information that says stay away from this particular kind of prospect or don't get involved in these kinds of circles. Give us some sense of what that is. There has to be some open kinds of questions in your industry.
Yeah, I tend to look at myself as a person of integrity. So, I think like-minded people kind of gravitate to one another. I'm not saying that you pass up on an opportunity that could be lucrative to you for any reason, but you also have to have that gauge, which I'm sure yourself or any person have whenever you're meeting with someone for the first time. You kind of feel that energy out. You feel out what that person is about and how you want to move forward, or if you even want to kind of move forward in certain situations with that potential client. But I think that's an internal thing that each person kind of has, whenever they're placed before a person for the first time.
Given what you know about Athletes United at this point, in association with Edge Radio Network, how interested are you in partnering with us possibly? Create that magic revenue stream you're talking about.
Very interested. I think for one, I am a fan of what the show and the platform is doing. I'm anyone that knows me knows I'm very much into the field of sports and athletics. I'm a fan of the processes of athletes, and also not only that, but I'm also interested in working with people in the area that are kind of moving the community in a certain way, or helping the community post or even during their career. So this platform.
So with little time left here, the answer is yes.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
Very good. Very
Sorry,
good.
I tend to be long-winded sometimes.
No, we appreciate your time today. Thank you for dropping by and giving us this insight and this much focus. You've given us at least a head start on how we're going to grow this business right now, this platform, this particular art that AU is practicing. So thank you for that. Look forward to speaking with you soon. All right.
Thanks for having me, Mel. Glad to be on. Yeah,
my pleasure. And we're out. We'll see everyone this time next week on the Athletes United platform on the Edge Radio Network, where truth still matters. Thank you.
We work our whole lives to support our families. With one accident or illness, it can all be gone in an instant. Now there's a smart, affordable way to protect your family. Go to findhealthbenefits.com and discover low-cost life insurance for as little as $2 per month. Add to that a tax-deferred annuity that can help you protect your assets and grow your money for retirement. Learn more. Go to findhealthbenefits.com or call 877-235-6094. A critical illness can strike without warning and wipe out your life savings. In fact, it's the number one reason for bankruptcy. Find Health Benefits offers an affordable solution. Get up to $50,000 if you get cancer, stroke, or a heart attack, giving you the peace of mind to focus on getting better while the plan helps you to pay your bills and medical expenses. Learn more. Go to findhealthbenefits.com or call 877-235-6094. 66% of seniors spend more time shopping for cable TV than Medicare plans. Most say because it's just too confusing. Laws change every year. The wrong plan could cost you thousands and prevent you from seeing the doctors you want. Introducing FindHealthBenefits.com. Save time, save money, see specialists without referrals. Go to FindHealthBenefits.com or call 877-235-6094 for this informative brochure.
Society is on the edge. Let's bring them back. Edge Radio, because truth still matters.
Welcome back to the Athletes United platform on the Edge Radio Networks, where truth still matters. I am, of course, your host, Big Mel, master of all that he surveys and final arbiter of all that comes before him. I'm also known as his judgeship. We have an interesting young lady with us this afternoon, and we're going to be talking to her about some self-inspired kinds of things she's done and some foundations she's developed. And we're very interested in hearing the backstory. So welcome to the program this morning, Ms. Moore, Ms. Tazora Moore. Are you there this morning? How are you this afternoon?
Hey, how you doing?
Very good, very good. You're doing well this afternoon.
Yes, I am. And yourself?
Thank you. Somehow I'm doing well. Very interested in having you here today. You have a kind of foundation you developed that was developed from kind of a very personal and deep experience. Can you explain that to us a little bit?
Yes, I actually founded my nonprofit in 13. I'm sorry. I lost my husband to suicide in 2012, which motivated me to start an organization to bring awareness to suicide and mental health in the underprivileged community.
I see. And my God. You said an underprivileged community. Is that, like many other things, something that goes often unmatched, unnoticed, and certainly unattended, more so in so-called underprivileged community?
Of course, especially in the African American community, that's not something that we talk about is mental health. Normally, when we mention anything that we're dealing with, in our community, we normally go to religion and tell you to pray it off, or don't even know the tools to even give you to make you healthy again.
So your estimation, mental health is as normal or should be treated like any other health condition?
Correct.
There's therapy for it. There may be medicines, but certainly there's a well-known approach.
Exactly. And so a lot of times when we go, I know for the African American men, that's not something that they're very open to talk about, especially open to even go to counseling. So I try to bring awareness. I try to advocate for counseling. It doesn't necessarily have to be, your mental state. It could be marriage. It could be just having a life coach. It doesn't necessarily have to be something that is something wrong with you. It's just having that outlet that you're able to talk and to kind of get your mind. It's like someone that kind of like walk you through the process of your thought process, basically.
Sure. So much more oftentimes if we dismiss someone as being crazy, that kind of a normal term, it carries a little more implication to it than we probably recognize.
I will agree.
Yes. So,
but I necessarily wouldn't say that they're crazy. I would say maybe they're different.
They're different. They're certainly different. But in such a case, if someone has developed a reputation of being, quote, crazy, is there probably a way to approach, diagnose, or at least have, a prognosis with this person to help them seek help?
Yes, I wouldn't necessarily say diagnose, because it doesn't necessarily mean that you have a medical issue. It could be your circumstances. It could be that you lost a job. It could be that, you lost your family. It could be that anything that could happen that would definitely affect your mental state. And when you say mental state, that meaning your thought process, how you coping with things. So when I say mental illness, a lot of times people think about people just walking around and kind of acting crazy, so to speak. But it doesn't necessarily mean that. It could mean that you lost your job and you don't see a way out, and that you just stuck at that moment and get caught up in the now versus working towards getting out of the now and seeing a bigger picture of your situation.
Yes. And given your own personal experience, you become obviously highly cognizant of what that means, how it affects human beings. But is there some connection with mental health and social and economic conditions? You see a connection there?
I would say it is a connection, because no one could really live without any type of interaction with each other. That's something that we kind of feed off of interaction with our family, interaction with our friends, interaction with, our coworkers. That is important to the human race. So having that taken away from us, and that now that when we see people, we kind of feel like, okay, or do they have COVID, or you see them coughing, it's kind of like we kind of Grinch, and really not seeing the bigger picture, or even noticing that we're kind of standoffish. We're kind of isolating ourselves. And sometimes that's not good.
Really. So it should come as no surprise, given what you know, that maybe suicide or attempted suicide has increased during the social distancing and this kind of social disconnect we've had around COVID.
It definitely have increased, and it has increased traumatic with the kids, because they're not able to interact with their peers as well, or they in an abusive house and they don't have the outlet to go to school, so they in this abusive house all day long, sun up to sundown, and they feel like they don't have an outlet as well. So it has been an increase in suicide in both spectrum, the adult and the kids.
How do you approach someone? Your approach to someone you suspect somehow suffering some of these consequences, some of these, causes that you just pointed out.
What would be my approach?
Yeah, what would be your approach?
If I know someone that's maybe contemplating suicide?
Sure.
So the first thing you will actually need to ask is, do they have a plan? A lot of times people say that they want to give up, but in reality, they don't want to give up. They just need that outlet to talk to someone and to feel like someone understands what they're going through. But if they have a plan, where you ask them, hey, what do you plan on doing? And they give you detail by detail. You definitely need to get medical assistance with that person.
Does the family also need to be involved if there is a family? Yeah.
Of course, family. A lot of times people really don't talk about it, but if someone actually completed suicide, they actually attempted once or twice, and they never got that help after their attempt. So it became intense, and then they finally succeed with suicide.
Well, it's kind of startling here to see that you said children are affected to this degree. There's been child suicide rates that become recognizable suddenly.
Yes, it has. Actually, a couple of years ago, I actually helped bury a 10-year-old that died to suicide. And it comes with bullying. It comes with no support at home. It comes with not having an outlet. It comes with kids feeling like that don't no one understand them. And then sometimes it comes with underlying issues that us as parents don't even know that our kids is dealing with.
So it might be a good idea to get a little more involved in their activities or whatever they like.
Yes, and get more involved. And also now that they have, pretty much everything on their fingertip, you kind of monitor what they're watching on YouTube and what they're watching on their phones, because I've looked up a couple of sites and they actually explain how to complete a suicide if that's what you want to do.
Wow.
Yes.
An actual how-to step by step.
How to step by step, yes.
Mercy. That shouldn't be, I didn't know that's legal. Apparently it is. My. Well, Ms. Moore, what would you suggest is the signs and or indications that someone is heading down that road or is heading down that slippery slope of poor mental health? And I'll tell you what, I want you to hold that thought for a second because we're going to come right back after that message. Okay. Thank you very much.
The Natural Nation Network is really about taking control of your health physically, spiritually, emotionally, even intellectually, because there's so much out there in misinformation. There's a lot of people now that are suffering from all sorts of diseases that they really wouldn't have to suffer for if they had better information. And that's what we're here to do. Provide information that can save lives.
The mind and the body are totally connected.
Health can be really serious, and sometimes we just have to lighten it up a little bit while we're still providing substantive information.
And my sort of mantra on the salsa dance floor is kind of similar. I tell somebody, if you make a mistake twice, it becomes a move. Okay.
Tune into Natural Nation every Tuesday at 11 a.m. When people stop talking to each other, society is on the edge. Let's bring them back. Edge Radio, because truth still matters.
All right, welcome back. With been talking with Ms. Tazora Moore on the depravities of mental health issues and the implications of mental health issues. And Ms. Moore, give us the name of your foundation once again and your nonprofit.
The name of my nonprofit is Hear My Cry Foundation.
Hear My Cry Foundation. And the primary function of it is, once again, to
bring awareness to suicide and mental health. What we actually does in my organization, we provide free counseling to anyone that's in crisis. We assist with burial assistance to a family that has a loved one who lost to suicide. And we also pay for medical expense as far as medication and things of that nature. If someone is not able to purchase their medicine, we're able to assist in that area as well.
That is a powerful service, Ms. Moore. I mean, and so critical in that moment.
Yes.
You obviously have network partners or somebody who is associated with you, helping to provide the services, correct?
Correct. Well, I have partnership with counselors. Okay. So when you call, you get a licensed counselor and you go through the process with them, and it's all free. So it's no charge to you. You get free 3 sessions. After the 3 sessions, they will assess you. If you need more, we'll pay for more. Mm-hmm. Or if you have all the tools that you need, then, just to get you to a better healthy place mentally.
Why should I come forward? I'm going to be labeled as crazy. I'm going to be labeled as somehow deranged or troubled. How do I avoid those kinds of, if you will, labels?
Labels. It's just, I know society is very hard when it comes to mental health. However, a lot of times people that's going through these issues, they not going through it because they want to. Mm-hmm. They going through it because they feel like they have to. And so once you get the help that you need, as it could be talking to a counselor, it could be talking to a psychiatrist, it could be talking to a sociologist. When you get those steps and you get that type of help, it'll get you in a better state mentally that you wouldn't feel like you're crazy. Mm-hmm. Just because society label you as crazy doesn't mean that that's necessarily your case. It could just mean that you think differently. It could mean that you process things differently. And instead of them having those type of labels, they just put everyone in one big category. And if they don't understand it, then they want to call you crazy or is something wrong with you. But it's not anything wrong with you. It's just you're different.
Well, I love the way you characterize this. And if you're sitting down with someone, giving them that first approach counsel, I guess it's necessary to get them past the stigmas of coming forward.
Correct.
Right. Yes. Has that been the terribly difficult part of this process?
For our men, yes, because, at an early age, we teach them to, don't cry. We teach them to suck it up. We teach them to, don't express your feelings. So as when they become a man, and they having all these emotions and all of these things that they're going on in their life, they don't feel like they have an outlet. They feel like that they supposed to suck it up. They feel like that they can't talk to anyone because that, show them as being weak. But it's just breaking down that stigma that, you're not weak if you're expressing your feelings and your emotions. That's part of life. Crying is not bad. It's actually good for your soul because once you finish, you feel, 10 times lighter, but it's just kind of breaking down what we teach our kids at an early age, that emotions, emotions and crying and laughing, that's all a part of emotions, and it's all needed in our life, basically.
Right. So a big part of this is home training and conditioning as well, huh?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, most definitely.
Wow. You said this is basically a free of charge if someone comes forth in your network?
Correct.
And may see a psychologist, does that mean actually lying down on the proverbial couch and explaining what happened?
Yes, locally, I have counselors in Dallas, Texas, but now due to COVID, we're actually virtual. So, and if I get someone that's out of town, and I would do research and find you a counselor in your state and actually will pay for it as well. So it's not, my service is not actually dedicated only to Texans. It's across the board of United States. That if you call me, if you're in Atlanta, if you call me, if you're in Washington, I will find a counselor that's in your area, and we will pay for the 3 sessions that you need, and then we will go forward from there.
You're devoted to this, Ms. Moore, and it obviously has some kind of psychic reward to you, given your own personal experience. Am I correct in saying that?
Correct. So the reason why I advocate a lot is through counseling is because, I offered that service to my husband, and his first response was, I'm not paying anyone to listen to my problems. And that kind of stuck with me, throughout my whole process of trying to understand what was going on with me and my family once I lost my husband to suicide. And, just the stigma in our community is that we're not paying anyone to listen to our problems. We're paying someone to help us navigate through our feelings and our emotions. And sometimes we could put things in our head that's not really reality, but we put it in our heads and we believe it, and it becomes reality to us.
Sure.
But if we don't talk to anyone and to kind of understand or explain what we're thinking, and they say, this might be the case in yours, but it could be this option, it could be that option, it could always broaden your thinking to other options, not just your way of tunnel thinking, because it's you're the only one in your head, so you're not able to bounce off those thoughts and ideas to anyone.
I see. Mr. Moore, is there a preferred way of explaining this to a child, or to a child of
I know with my kids, I know as far as suicide, I explain to my kids that if someone broke their leg, then you sometimes, when it happened, you won't be able to walk correctly unless it's getting corrected, but you still won't be able to walk normal. If you broke your finger, you won't be able to write. And if it's something wrong with your mind, in your mental state, you won't be able to think correctly. So just because someone, contemplates suicide, it doesn't mean that they was in their right mind. It could be something going on chemically. Sometimes that you accept medicine, and it tell you that it's suicidal thoughts is the side effects of it. So it doesn't necessarily mean you as the person is something wrong. It could just be something off balance mentally that will have you contemplating and thinking about that. And you just always be true to yourself, and you always have a counselor on staff, just like how you have a doctor. You don't go to your doctor every day, but you have your doctor in your phone, just in case you need your doctor. So I think that doctors and counselors is the same thing. No, you will not need to talk to your counselor every day, but when you have that down moment, you have your counselor in your phone that you're able to call and set up an appointment, or even just talk to them over the phone for 5 or 10 minutes to explain to them what you're going through, and they could walk you through that process. And it will be, a better day, a better situation, a better thought process, and a healthy you.
By all means. Now, is there any research or clinical data to suggest suicide can somehow become, I don't know if it's a family matter, somehow transferable, or maybe
it has had studies says that normally when a parent dies of suicide, sometimes the kids will do it as well. Just like if a parent becomes successful, it's just like you are your environment. However, if you get the help that kid need at an early age and the resources that they need, I definitely will say that will not be the case. Suicide is 100% preventable. It's just a lot of times people don't have the resources that they need to get past that hump that they're over.
And so, yes, there is an approach, there is an idea, there is this whole therapeutic value of talking to children directly.
Correct. And giving them a platform where they open to express their feelings. A lot of times as parents, we get caught up in our world, and that we feel like when the kid is telling us, what's going on in their world, that their world is minimized versus ours. But same like how we get drowned with with bills, they get drowned with homework, and they need to express that. They need to we kind of need to step back and kind of let them have their platform expressing how they feel and what they're going through, and kind of try to accommodate them. I know my kids, I have 3, and they on virtual learning, and they feel so overwhelmed, because they're trying to learn in a different environment, which is at home now. Then they trying to stay focused in school, for 8 hours on the computer. And then they doing their work on the computer for 8 hours. Then they have to get off the computer and do their homework for another 2 hours. And all of this is in front of a computer. So when they express to me, like, Mama, my head is hurting, or Mama, I'm tired, or Mama, I'm feeling drained, I don't just tell them, hey, sometimes I do if I feel like, your kid. But sometimes they get drained as well. Sometimes they get overwhelmed, and just have them to have a break, or, let them go outside and play. I know now it's kind of hard for us they really don't go outside like we used to when we was kids. We go outside as soon as we get out of school, and then we come back in the house when dinner is done. But now, so with electronics and with safety, we kind of gear our kids into the house, which that's the only environment that they have. So they feel like they don't have an outlet, and they accept a lot, they're not able to talk to their friends or go play with their friends like how they able to. So it's a different environment for them as well. And you just have to be open and to listen to them, because they're going to tell you how they feel. It's just up to us to accept it and kind of give them an outlet in ways that they could kind of cope with what they're going through.
That's powerful. Obviously, if a family experiences suicide in the family, friends and family don't know what to say to you. You know what I'm saying? Should this be an open discourse, or a subject matter that should be, suppressed and hidden? And how do you see this?
What's your question?
I mean, after a family has experienced suicide, should your friends and family avoid the topic altogether, or should it be an open discourse?
That's a case by case, because I know when I lost my husband to suicide, there wasn't something that I wanted to talk right away, because it was something that I had to process on how I could be with someone 24/7 and not know that these are the things that he was dealing with mentally. So it wasn't something that I was open to talk about. It took me 1.5 years to be comfortable to even start an organization to even bring awareness to suicide and mental health. And it just comes with the stigma of, the questions of, well, why would he do something like that? Or, you didn't know that he would do something like that, or, that was selfish of him. And those type of words is normal when you hear of suicide. But when you take a step back and when you actually understand the process of mental health, it's not selfish of them. It's just their process of their thinking at that moment. They felt like they was the problem. So they actually feeling like they doing us a favor is by leaving. And everybody else will be okay. It's sometimes people have financial issues and they know that they have $100,000 policy on them, and they will say, hey, I'd rather my family not to struggle. I'll just take myself out, and I know that they will be okay with at least $100,000 policy. In a right person mind, I'd rather would have my loved one here versus the money. But in their situation, they might feel like, hey, I'm the one that's causing all this pain, so I'm just going to take myself out and let them be happy ever after.
That's quite interesting. I was going to ask the
that's
question.
Deep.
Yeah,
that's deep.
Very much so. Suicide affects everything.
Everything and everyone. It doesn't matter if you're rich. It doesn't matter if you're poor. It doesn't matter if you're middle class. Everyone gets to that point that they feel like they want to give up. But some people able to cope and get them own self out of the situation. Some people need coaching. That's where your friends come in. And some people need medical attention, meaning that they need a counselor, they need a therapy that they need to talk to on a regular basis. That doesn't mean that they're any different than anyone that just need to talk to their friends. Because I know I talk to my friends, at least once a week. And like, girl, look, I'm swamped with, my real estate, with my nonprofit, and with my kids at home. I mean, just having that outlet to talk. I think that's where the downfall is people feeling like that they don't have anyone that they could talk to and open up with and just listen. A lot of times we feel like that we need to say something, but sometimes we don't even need to say nothing. We just need to listen. Yes, listen.
Yeah, listen. Let me ask you this, Ms. Moore. Does the suicide affect credit, career choice, school choice? Does it impact, some of these social kinds of?
I know it was a recent study that they were saying football players, that they start at an early age and they get tackled, with their head constantly, that sometimes that cause a chemical imbalance. That I wouldn't say it leads to suicide, but it definitely leads to an underlying issue that we might not even realize that their coping skills or their thinking process is totally different than it would be if they didn't have, football, that they constantly get hit on a regular basis at an early age. I know in our community, we start them at 5 years old. So just think if they go from 5 all the way to elementary, middle school, high school, college, and then they even go to NFL, with this constant banging on their head, that could be some type of damage that we don't even know. So depending on the sports, I would say yes. Depending on the career, I mean, it's just all the way around, because you could pick a career that you just feel anxiety, that you just overwhelmed, that you feel like you always, you have a boss that's always on you, that you never do anything right. That affects you mentally as well, that you feel like everything you do is not good enough, so mental health affects you in all of your life choices.
Well, Mr. Moore, you've given us a ton of information here. You've enlightened us to a huge degree on what suicide is and how it affects practically everything that's critical in their lives. We wish you so well with this foundation and with your
thank you,
your nonprofit. Thank you for coming on today and sharing some of this information with us.
Thank you so much for having me. If you need any assistance, you could go to my website. It's hearmycryfoundation.org. I'm also on all the social media platforms as Hear My Cry Foundation.
Let's say that one more time. Hear My Cry. Say that one more time.
Hear My Cry Foundation.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Mr. Tazora Moore. Hear My Cry Foundation. Please come back and update us.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Thank you. We're out.